In 2025, I've really upped my makeup game and it's made me so much more excited to put my makeup on again. Hi, my name is Sammy and today I'm going to take you through my full updated makeup routine. My old makeup routine could be best described as being flat. I used foundation, concealer, I did really structured eyebrows and mascara, and that was basically it. I'd take the dimension away by putting on foundation and I never added it back. And the result was what I like to call a moon face, just very flat looking makeup, and it just didn't make me excited to wear it. It was kind of the bare minimum, and I actually think it made me look a little bit ill. As part of my glow up that I've gone through in 2025, I've really started embracing my natural features, so my natural fair skin tone and things like my hooded eyes. I'm doing things now to embrace those things rather than try to pretend that they're not there or try to hide them. Before we even begin with makeup, the most important step is your skincare, believe it or not. If your skincare is sorted, you're going to be starting with a really great base for your makeup that's going to make it sit so much nicer, and it will also last better throughout the day. Step one is, of course, our foundation. Now, hot tip, if your foundation has SPF in it, do not rely on it as your only source of SPF. It is not enough. Always do your SPF first. So I'm using the Hourglass Illusion Luminous Glow Foundation in shade 3. This is a great foundation. It leaves my skin really glowing. I like to apply it on the back of my hand, use my finger to then disperse it on my face, which I then blend out with my beauty blender. Once my foundation is good to go, step 2 is conceal and correct. The one I'm using at the moment is the Conceal Revealer Extra Bright in shade Magic. So this is like a pinky concealer. I have quite dark under eye circles, and concealer by itself doesn't really brighten that area all too much, so I like to start with this under my eyes to give a bit of a brightening effect. What I like to do is, again, apply it on the back of my hand, and I actually use a brush. So I'm currently using the MAC 234 brush, which is a brush I've had forever, which is the main reason that I use it, is I already had it. It's actually a double-sided brush. I believe one side is for eyeshadow and the other side is for concealer, so I use the conceal side. I put the corrector on the back of my hand, dab it on just a small amount. You only need a small amount. You can always add more if you need to. Tap it under my eye. I like to bring it out to the corners because I do get a bit of darkness out here as well. A little goes a long way, and it gives a really lovely hydrating, brightening effect under my eyes. I then move on to concealer. The concealer that I'm using at the moment is an Hourglass one in shade Willow 2.3. Again, this is a really nice concealer. It's very hydrating. Again, I like to apply it on the back of my hand. It really helps warm up the product. I then use my fingers to disperse it onto my face, and again use my beauty blender to blend it out. I don't touch my under eyes at first. I focus on other areas where I'm wanting to reduce a bit of extra redness or something like that. And then when there's barely any left on the back of my hand, I use that same MAC 234 brush to get a little bit of the remaining product to use under my eyes. Once I've done my foundation and my concealer, my next step is to set them with powder. I don't like to use too much powder. I do prefer a very glowy, dewy looking base, which is very different from back in the days where I used to try and dry my face as much as possible because I had pimples and acne, whereas now I like to embrace that glowing look. The setting powder that I like to use is the Laura Mercier one, translucent loose setting powder. I actually only have it in the mini because I wanted to test it out first, and I really like it, and because I use only a small amount, it goes a long way. I've had it for months and months now, and I've barely used any. And what I like to do is obviously open up the lid. I'll put just a small amount on the inside of the lid. I'll use my brush, which is the Mecca Cosmetica double-ended finishing brush. I use the smaller end, so I'll put the product in the inside of the lid, swirl the brush in to pick it up, and then I'll tap it on the back of my hand and even give it a little swirl on the back of my hand before I pat it under my eyes, and then any other area where I tend to get get a little bit of creasing or tends to be a little bit oily. So I'll do it around my nose. I'll do it around my nasolabial folds or this crease in here, around my chin and jawline, maybe in my kind of frown line, but just being very deliberate about the placement, only doing it where I need to. So then I like to move on to step 3, which is blush and bronzer. I used to shy away from bronzer, being quite a fair-skinned person. I didn't think that was really for me, but I also don't like using contour during the day, like with a daytime everyday makeup look. I find on me it looks a little bit too much, but I have found that my makeup looks so much better when I do add some kind of depth and dimension back into it, which you're taking away by giving yourself that flawless coverage from your step 1 and step 2 process. So what I've discovered is the Hourglass Ambient Lighting Palette is actually really great for fair skin, or at least it's been really great for my fair skin. It's got really beautiful sheer products, so it doesn't look really heavy, bronzy, dark, yellowy on my skin, which is really great. Just some really, really beautiful sheer colors. Again, I'll tap it on the back of my hand before applying to my face. I typically will apply it on my cheek slightly lower than I would apply my blush, but still quite high. So I'm not trying to get into that hollow because it's not a contour. I'm not trying to create a shadow. I'm going a little bit higher, starting from that kind of middle part of my cheek and brushing it up from there. I like to put it a little bit on my temples, a little bit across my forehead, you know, those areas where the sun would typically hit. I do also like to put a little bit along my jawline as well. It just adds some depth back into my face without it being any kind of hectic contouring going on, for just an everyday look. And to do my bronzer, I use the other side of my Mecca Cosmetica double-ended finishing brush. So I use the larger size for my bronzer. The next step that I like to do is my blush step. I like to use a powder blush, but I have used liquid ones in the past and I've really liked them as well, so it's really just a personal preference. I'm currently using the NARS Orgasm Edge shade, which gives a really nice flush to my skin. It's a little bit peachy, but it sets off, I think, on my skin really nicely. A little goes a long way with this shade. I like to apply it, again, just above where you applied your bronzer. I'll pull it in a little bit further, so I'll come in a bit closer to my nose and blend it out. I do like to put a little bit on my nose because I do tend to naturally have a bit of a red nose, so I think it helps make my skin a little bit more natural looking, and I'll add a tiny bit to the top of my forehead as well, because again, that's where I tend to get a bit of natural sun, a bit of natural flush, and it just leads to my base looking very natural in my opinion. To apply my blush, I like to use a MAC 120 brush, which is a really nice fluffy brush. It's not too big. It's just that right kind of size to really get on those cheeks and really blend through with your bronzer. Moving on to step 4, brows. I start with the Hourglass Arch Brow Volumizing Fiber Gel. I get it in shade Soft Brunette. I'll use it to brush out my eyebrows and it adds a little bit of color. It holds them in place, gives a bit of depth, and gives me the majority of the brow look that I'm going for. If I'm in a rush, I'll leave it there. If I've got a little bit more time, or if I want to make my brows look a little bit thicker or something like that, I'll go in with a pencil. I'm currently using, again, the Hourglass Arch Brow Sculpting Pencil, so I get that in Soft Brunette. I usually use it after I've already put on the gel, and I'll just fill in the gaps of the areas where I think needs a little bit more coverage, a little bit more fullness. You just follow the lines of your eyebrow direction and it should look quite natural. Step 4 is eyes. I have hooded eyes, so I've changed my technique a bit to suit that. It just means that I don't have as much eyelid showing as some other people do. Mine's not too bad, but I do find that if I put things only on my lid, if I get photos taken, I'm looking straight ahead, you're not really going to see what's on my lid. And if I don't put anything and blend it up a bit higher, then it looks like I've got quite a lot of white space between my eye and my eyebrow. Now I like to use a cream eyeshadow. I'm currently using the Bobbi Brown dual-ended longwear cream shadow stick. I'm using it in shade taupe and golden pink. I like to use the taupe side on my lid. I'll draw a little bit on top of it and then use a brush to blend it out and around. I then sometimes will add just a tiny bit on the bottom part of my lid and then blend it in as well, which creates a little bit more depth. The brush that I'm currently using to do that is a Morphe brush R38. I use a slightly smaller one. If I'm going to do it under my eyes, I use the R39. If it's just a bit of an everyday look, I might leave it there and then just add mascara. If I'm going for more of a intense look or more of a glam look or something like that, I like to use a dark brown pencil. It makes my eyelashes look a little darker if I use it in the waterline, on the top waterline. The dark brown eyeliner that I like to use is the Westman Atelier I Love You eye pencil. I'm not actually sure where it says what the shade is, but it's just a very nice pencil. It's very creamy. It goes under your waterline really nicely. For an everyday look, I like to put it under my top waterline. It gives my mascara a little bit more depth and darkness, in my opinion. Then once I've got my eyeshadow and my eyeliner, if I'm wearing it on, I'll curl my lashes. I always curl my lashes before I put on mascara. I like to use my Kevin Wa Kwan, I think that's how you say it, eyelash curler. It's just a really nice eyelash curler. I think it sits perfectly on my eyes, really captures all of my lashes and doesn't seem to pinch my skin, which is important. I've had some cheaper ones that always seem to pinch, and you do not want that on your delicate eye area. Then for mascara, I like to use a brown mascara. I'm currently using the Tower 28 Make Waves mascara in color Drift. Comes in really cute packaging. I really like the color, and every Tower 28 product I've used lately I've really liked, so that's quite an exciting brand, I think. It's also just a really nice brush, as you can hopefully tell. It's got the shorter bristle side, which is really good for adding volume and lifting your lashes up to kind of complement the curling that you've just done. And then the longer side I use to really make sure there's a bit of lengthening, you know, the ends of your lashes don't get missed. Then I'll go back to the shorter side to kind of finish it all off. But I've found it to be a really great mascara. I don't get fallout from it. A lot of mascaras that promise that they don't give you fallout do. I still get flaking, I still get smudging, whereas I have not had that problem with this one at all, so highly recommend that as a mascara. The reason that I like to use a brown mascara now is because I'm quite fair, I've got fairly low contrast features. Black mascara I think is a little bit harsh on my face. I used black for the longest time because I thought I really wanted those black spidery looking lashes, but I have discovered recently that brown really makes my eyes pop. My eyes are blue, it really sets nicely against them and looks really natural as well. Step 6 is lips. These days I like to use a lip liner to really define my lips. I have naturally fairly thin lips, so I think by defining them it just makes it look a little bit more like I have them, which is really nice. The lip liner that I'm using at the moment is the Charlotte Tilbury Lip Cheat. It is in shade Pillow Talk. This is a really nice creamy lip liner. It goes on really easily. I find it to be fairly idiot proof, and it's a really nice shade, one of those my shade but better types of shades for me at least. Once I've lined my lips, I finish it off with either a lip gloss or a lipstick depending on where I'm going. So for an everyday look I always use a lip gloss or a lip balm. I'm currently using the Summer Fridays Lip Butter Balm, which I'm using shade Pink Sugar. It gives a lot of shine and is really hydrating on my lips, so I really recommend this one. It's a subtle color, but paired with your lip liner it gives a really nice natural pinky lip effect. If I'm looking for something a little bit more dressy, then I'll use a pinky shade lipstick. I got myself a YSL lipstick. It is the Love Shine lipstick. This pinky shade that I got is really perfect for me. Again, it's that my lip shade but better. It goes on really creamy and is just a really beautiful shade. It's just a really nice experience to wear it as well. That's all I do for my lip step. Then I move on to step 7, which is the final setting step. I like to use a setting spray. I'm currently using the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless setting spray. It's a really nice consistency, very hydrating. I do find it helps my makeup last all day. I've got it in just a smaller one because I wanted to try it out first, and I will invest in the larger one next time because I really like how it makes my skin really glow, give it that dewy kind of look. It really depends if you're going for a dewy or a matte look. It really pulls all the makeup together and helps it last all day. And that is my 7-step routine. It sounds like a lot, but when you are throwing it all together in the morning, it's actually really quick, I think, to get through. And I find myself being really excited to put on my makeup in the morning, and I feel really happy once it's done, which in my previous routine was not really the case. I like that this look is still really natural. It doesn't look like I'm wearing a full glam look because my preference is more of a natural look. I have had people compliment me and my skin. It's hard to say whether it's because my skin has cleared up or if it's because my makeup game has improved, but they do, both sides of it obviously complement each other. I hope some of these tips might help you with improving your makeup game. It's definitely a bit of trial and error, but makeup should be a little bit fun, so make sure you're enjoying it. You shouldn't feel bad about what's going on. It just might mean you need to tweak your technique or tweak some of your products a little bit to find something that works for you. In my next video, I'm going to share what I changed with my style to match this new look and outlook that I have, and it's arguably been my favorite part of this whole process. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss that one. Let me know if you use any of the products I've shared today and what you've thought about them. I would love to see your comments down below. Any product that I've shared, I'll share in the description down below, including links. Thanks so much for watching this far, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your week. Bye.